Get you.
By the way, how do we know you're not wearing bell bottoms?
Well, we might be. You never know. But time now, ladies and gentlemen, for Hoop Scoop as we try to find out what in the world's going on in the world of high school and collegiate basketball. This is the time of year, Jason, that a lot of people are in heaven.
Yeah, well, you'd think.
Well, mainly because there's a lot of basketball going on, although we have some ups and downs that we're going to talk about. Mr. Atzeni, first we'll talk about high school basketball. That's the focus right here in Central Iowa.
Well, we said it all year, both on the girls and the boys side. Parity was the word to use, and when you look at Class 1A, state championship ball tonight at 6, you have South O'Brien and Paulina. St. Albert of Council Bluffs, at least on my rankings, and I don't know if any, I really haven't followed the rest. They were outside looking in, and they are both playing for a state championship.
Wow.
And there's some reasoning to it, too. St. Albert of Council Bluffs had 9 losses, and they play in a predominantly 3A, 2A conference. So when you play a tough schedule, that makes you better. And if you look over at Dubuque, Wahlert, and Cedar Rapids Xavier, who are going to be playing for the 3A title game tomorrow night at 6, really the same thing. They're in 3A, but they play a 4A schedule. So they've played some tougher teams. Their record's a lot more deceiving. Xavier has 8 losses, and Wahlert has 5 losses, and both of them, everybody knew Dubuque Wahlert with Cordell Pemsel was going to be tough, and they've won a championship already, so they were going to be back to try to defend. But it's sometimes records can be very deceiving because you look at strength of schedule. But this year's been so balanced, and it's been tough. Last night, number 1 Pella gets knocked out, and so by Xavier, so in a tough game. That's just the way it goes this year. We knew nothing was for sure. There was nobody you really sit there going, I like him. Absolutely no. It's been, which is fun about high school basketball this year. It's really been fun. Looking at 2A, when you look at that tonight, Western Christian of Hall, perennial power. Yeah. And they're the top-ranked team. And they take on Cascade of Western Dubuque, who's been playing really good basketball over the last few years. So not a real surprise. Josh Van Lingen, boy, what a semifinal round game, 23 points and 21 rebounds. I think that's some pretty good yeoman's work there by a young man. And then this afternoon, of course, the last of the Central Iowa teams still left, West Des Moines Valley. And they'll take on Pleasant Valley, who's only got the 1 loss, but again, look at the records. Valley's played a tougher schedule than it has Pleasant Valley out in the eastern part of the state there. It was a little bit down. And then Iowa City West takes on Cedar Falls. Everybody expected Iowa City West to be there at the end of the year. And more than likely, unless Cedar Falls steps up today, it looks like possibly it'll be an Iowa City West versus either Valley or Pleasant Valley. And I like West Des Moines Valley's chances. I mean, Turner Scott and Quentin Curry are playing as good a basketball as anybody in the state right now. And if they continue to take that leadership, and you know, you have a Marble there and everything, they've got a ton of seniors who understand what it's like to be on this stage at this time of the year and hoping for his title. So I think you could see that Valley Iowa City West matchup in the state championship if everything works out this afternoon.
Now, with Valley playing, we were just talking off the air, the coach of Valley, for those people that might not know, you've seen him around before.
Oh, he's been around a lot. B.J. Windhorst played at Drake. He coached at Southeast Polk and then took a hiatus. His kids and his business, he kind of took him away from basketball, but it seemed like everywhere you went, whether it was a high school game, a college game, or even the Iowa Energy game, B.J. was there. So it was definitely in his roots, and now he's back where he wants to be, coaching high school basketball, and he's loving every minute of it, and he's got to be really enjoying it now, playing for a hopeful state championship here if they win this afternoon. So it'll be fun to. And BJ's a great guy. He's intense, and the team plays behind what BJ's, because he's one of those guys, and you know, covering Drake's at times. BJ was one of those guys that wasn't a superstar. He had to work for everything. Them lunch pail guys. So they always were workers, and I think he expects the same on how he played. He kind of uses that in his coaching style as well. That high intensity, work hard, leave it on the floor attitude, and that's what you want out of your kids out there.
Okay, now if you want to stay on top of what's going on, your radio show going on.
Well, tomorrow morning from 8 to 10 on 1350 ESPN Radio, we'll look back at this boys state tournament. We'll also be talking to Scott DeYoung to congratulate the Ankeny Centennial Jags on their state girls championship, and we'll talk a little bit about Iowa State and UNI, who will be playing in the NCAA tournament. When and where, we'll find out on Sunday, but we have 3 teams in the state of Iowa, and regardless of how you feel at this time, since they're all done playing, at least in the regular season phase of it, they all have a chance, because you get out of that conference time and you get out of that third time against a team. Now you get fresh faces, and it gives you a fresh attitude. And I think these teams will give it a good shot and a good run in the NCAA tournament.
All right, time to switch gears here a little bit, talk about collegiate basketball. But before we do jam it into gear, you're going to be doing one of the high school games later on this afternoon.
I will. I'll be doing the Iowa City West Cedar Falls game.
Okay.
Later this afternoon at 3:15.
All right, looking forward to that.
Watch that one. But tell you what, was not exactly a red letter day for Iowa basketball teams yesterday.
No.
Both got knocked out in the second round of their tournament. First of all, Iowa laid an egg against Illinois, got off to a bad start. I don't know if you heard McCaffrey's press conference afterward. It's pretty funny because one of the guys asked one of the players, one of the reporters asked one of the players, says, so what was the game plan on that final play with 4 seconds to go? And McCaffrey looks over and goes, that's none of your business. That's none of your business, period.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah, it was funny. It's really fun. That's none of your business. You can watch that on YouTube. It was really pretty funny. Anyway, but Iowa gets off to a terrible start. Then they come back, they take the lead, and Illinois goes up by 11. Actually, at that point, I flipped over to some of the other games that were going on.
We did the same. Yeah.
And I turned back over, and it's like, whoa, it's tied. Because Iowa went on an 11-0 run, but then Illinois hit a shot with 1:16, and then Iowa could not get a shot off. They had 2 possessions down the stretch. Gasell had a terrible shot, and then in the other one, they never got a shot off. And so they lost that game 68-66. So now they have to wait and see what seed they're going to be. And they were, last time I checked bracketology, they had them down to number 5 seed. Well, they're probably going to drop further, probably about 6. I would think about a 6.
I heard 8. Yeah.
Well, but nobody knows, and that's the thing about bracketology. You don't really know. But they could have won from 5 to 8. I mean, no, it won't be 5. I mean, they'll 6 to 8, which is quite a drop. They've dropped 5 out of 6.
All right. So then the hopes.
This is 2 years ago.
The hopes are on the shoulders of the Cyclones. Then
they were, and then they played Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma, granted, I mean, they were a #1 team at one point, and they're ranked higher.
Well, they're third, aren't they now?
Well, they're 6th.
6 now. Okay,
they're
sorry.
6th, and Iowa State's 21st. So, look, let's face it. Iowa State played a tougher opponent than Iowa did yesterday. But Iowa State, I'll tell you, it was a heck of a ball game. In fact, these two teams have played 3 great games now. George Niang was on fire, had 31. He had tied a career high. He had 1 point in the second half, 14 points in a row. Wow. Finally fouled out of the game. I know that John Walters was talking about how my favorite official was there yesterday. He wasn't real happy with him. But Buddy Hield had 39 yesterday for Oklahoma, and he's probably the player of the year in college basketball. I think he's right up there. So, Oklahoma won that game 79-76. So now, and by the way, both teams turned it over yesterday. Iowa turned it over 18 times. Iowa State turned it over 17. You can't do that.
Yeah, there was a couple of times we went up and down the court, all the way down the court, missed the basket. Yeah, and then turn the ball over.
Can't turn it over. Can't turn it over. So those two are going to the tournament. We don't know where they're going to be seated. And then we got Northern Iowa. And what a run for them in the Missouri Valley tournament. And Wes Washburn hits that last second shot. I asked Ben Jacobson on my radio show yesterday. I asked him if his heart had started again. He said, well, it took a couple of days.
I would imagine,
But he was all along. They planned for him to take that last shot. He was going to take that.
What a great shot, too. And the way it
went up in the air.
When it was straight up in the air, and then the clock stopped. It seemed like, it was in slow motion.
Well, they had a big lead in that game, and then Evansville came back on them. But then they gutted it out at the end. So give Northern Iowa credit. They get to the tournament this year. They're at 1 point, 2-6 in the Valley.
Wow.
And they come back and they go to the tournament for the 3rd straight year. Now, again, we were talking about this. We look at Joe Lenardi's bracketology. He's got Iowa, but again, this is before yesterday. He's got Iowa at Oklahoma City, and he's got Iowa State and UNI both in Denver. But again, that could all change. It just all changes. Right. Now, let me tell you why there's room for hope for everybody. Oh, I do want to say one other thing. There's a good chance there's going to be a 4th team in this state in the NCAA tournament.
Who's that?
Either the Drake or the Northern Iowa women, because they play in the Missouri Valley Women's Tournament. It's in the Quad Cities now. Tanya Warren was named Coach of the Year in the Valley, former Des Moines Prep standout, took UNI to the title. They're playing Bradley today. They're the #1 seed. Drake is the #2 seed.
Good for them.
And they're playing Evansville. So there's a good chance, and of course what we can hope for is that UNI plays Drake in the final, which guarantees a 4th NCAA tournament team out of the state.
That's perfect,
But let me give you the reasoning, and Tony brought it up a little bit earlier. What happens, and Paul Biancardi, I'm dropping another name from ESPN, was on the show yesterday. Iowa's used to playing Big Ten teams. They know Iowa. They can prepare for them. Iowa State's used to playing Big 12 teams. They can prepare for them. Now you get all different matchups. And so, Iowa's going to play somebody maybe out of the A10 or they're going to play, you know, I don't think Butler's going to get in, but, you know, some team from another conference who doesn't really know them.
Right.
So I think, Tony, you would agree that it's a whole different thing. It's all about the matchups now.
Yeah.
They're not playing teams that know them as well. So just because Iowa struggled down the stretch in the Big Ten or Iowa State struggled a little bit doesn't mean that they won't do well in the NCAA tournaments. We've seen this before. UConn, a couple years ago, struggled. At the end, they barely got in the tournament, and they won the whole thing.
North Carolina State's been there before.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Villanova against Georgetown. That was never supposed to
Be
happen.
interesting to see what the
Right.
matchup
There's
is.
a lot of stories out there like that.
So don't fret because they lost in their conference tournament. Just be happy they're going to the NCAA tournament and can make some noise there.
All right, another thing we want to make sure we mention, Copman is going to be having a book signing. Tell me where you're going to be.
Going to be at the Iowa Hall of Pride tomorrow, starting at 1 o'clock,
There it is.
in conjunction with, see which camera? Right there. Here we go. In conjunction with the boys tournament. I'm going over to the Iowa Hall of Pride. I'll be there at 1 o'clock, and I told them I'd stay until everybody gets their book signed.
That's perfect.
So, could do
Wonderful.
that.
All right, so your radio show, reminder?
Radio show, 6 to 7 on 1350 ESPN. And we try to get the best guests that we can. I know Rick Hartzell's coming on next week. You remember Rick, former
Yes, I do.
UNI athletic director, got a new book out. And I'll be covering the regional for 1350 ESPN next Thursday and Saturday.
Perfect.
Looking forward
Good job.
to it.
Moves. Later on this afternoon, you're doing one of the high
I
school
will
games.
do Iowa City West against Cedar Falls.
And then
3:15.
tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
Tomorrow morning, 8 to 10 on 1350 ESPN. Looking forward to it.
Great job, gentlemen.
Thank you.